I'm gonna do it. Okay,
Okay.
excellent. Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to Relume webinar. We have this webinar every second and fourth Mondays. So today we're going to be talking about effect of PTSD from emotional trauma. This topic was really requested by very own, one of our board of directors, Miss Natasha Ferguson. So this is upon special request. Anyone can actually request any topic and we'll work on it and we'll make it happen. Okay, so understanding the effect of PTSD from emotional trauma. Thank you for being here today. This presentation is about something that affects more people than we often realize. PTSD is something that we always, maybe often associate with people having issues relating to war. That's what we think of it. But you can also have PTSD from other issues, from emotional trauma, understanding the invisible wound and the path to healing. What is PTSD? I know a lot of you have some answer. I'd like to hear from you. What is PTSD? Let's look at what is happening in the chat. Anyone can put it in the chat or you can unmute. What is PTSD? When you see that, what comes to your mind? Anyone?
When I see it, it comes to mind that something major has happened in your life that you have not gotten over,
Yeah.
and that there is always a trigger to bring that event back to you.
Yes. Okay. Great point. Anyone else? Yes, Dr. Quinn, you can read the chat for me, because I can go on the chat.
Yes. From Yvonne Williams, post-traumatic stress disorder, and from Sister Pauline, past trauma.
Yes, past trauma. You're all on the right path. So, PTSD, as Sister Yvonne said, is post-traumatic stress disorder. That is what is PTSD. People that experience emotional trauma, they can have PTSD, not just people that have been in war. So if you look at this little on the right side, we have this graphic that talks about PTSD, and it has different kinds of words around it. It has therapy, nervous, anxiety, flashback, stress. Those are some of the things that come to mind when you think of PTSD, depression, trauma, thought. So we're going to be reviewing all of that much more today. So PTSD can also be caused, as I said earlier, by emotional trauma. What are emotional trauma? Neglect, abuse, betrayal, abandonment, chronic stress. What is chronic stress? When you think of chronic stress, what comes to mind? I know I have a lot of some medical personnel in the room. So what is chronic stress?
I consider one thing would be living in an abusive relationship, family.
Yeah.
It could be also from your job. You have a boss that is just never satisfied, and every time you just be afraid to go to work because you don't know what's going to come next from a boss that is just mean spirited.
Yeah, yeah, that's a point. That's so true. And I'll define chronic stress for you. Anything chronic is something like a prolonged, something that is prolonged compared to acute, that is just immediate. So chronic stress is a prolonged feeling of pressure and overwhelm that can last for weeks or for months. So anything that can give you that stress or the feeling of overwhelmingness, like even when you lose someone, having a death in the family, sudden death, or you lose something, that those things can bring chronic stress. And we are learning now that chronic stress is a form of emotional trauma. and you can have PTSD when you have experienced that. Is there anyone here that has never experienced any form of chronic stress? I think everybody's hand should be up. We have experienced, even what we're experiencing now, there are different levels of it, but what we're experiencing now with our president, it's going to be some kind of 4 years of some kind of chronic stress. That's why we have to stay at the altar for those of us that are believers to get our mind right and mind on Christ. Okay, so we're going to go to the next one. This is some of the emotional responses that people will have. Another thing you have to remember with emotional trauma is that the betrayal, the prolonged neglect, the emotional abuse, the chronic stress can be just as damaging as when people are physically in at war and they being shot at and they seeing all kind of traumatic things happening. Our mind and our bodies don't always know the difference. Trauma is trauma. The trauma is real. Trauma is trauma. Right? So I want us to just take a moment to understand that trauma is trauma. There's no level of oh, he was at war. That is really traumatic. Oh, this person had this or that, and we try to put things in hierarchy. And sometimes society actually put things in hierarchy, and in our mind, we sort of belittle what we are feeling or the emotional trauma that we have been through. And if there's anyone on this platform that's gone through any kind of deep chronic stress or emotional trauma, I just want to take a moment to say, I acknowledge you. I see you. I see you. Because
All right,
sometimes,
Natasha has her hand raised.
yeah, I see it. I'm going to acknowledge that in a minute. Thank you, Dr. Quinn.
Okay.
And sometimes when we're going through all those stress, at times we don't feel seen. I see you. Sister Natasha, go ahead.
You're muted,
If I
Natasha.
was stopping your flow, I'll wait.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to say I can relate to that because when Daryl got very sick, I remember feeling that feeling of ex anxiety and depression altogether because I was scared about when he came home because I didn't know what that was going to look like for me because I knew how he was when he was in a rehab and how much work he had, how much he had, how much care it would need when he returned. So I remember feeling that tension and that, feeling. And it felt major to me at times when I thought about it in my head. What is it going to look like when he comes home? You know?
Yeah. So that's a good point. And those are real feeling, right? And as people of faith, sometimes we we're not careful, we over spiritualize everything and we don't stop for a minute to acknowledge the feelings that we're having. But we have to acknowledge our feeling, but in the middle of that feeling, know that God is still in control. But you cannot ignore your feeling and say, no, I'm not feeling that. Oh, I shouldn't feel that. Your feeling is your feeling. Like I said, trauma is trauma, and it affects us in different ways. And now that whatever the traumatic or emotional trauma that has happened, now we want to focus on what are the effects we have. What are the effects those things will have on us that if we see certain things, it will trigger them. That's why we call it post-traumatic syndrome disorder. Things will happen that will start triggering them. What do you feel? What happens to your body? What changes does it cause in your body that you have to look out for? Number one, the emotional effects. So these are some of the emotional responses that people experiences. Constant anxiety, emotional numbness. Like I've heard people say, I just feel numb to everything. I don't even know what to feel. I don't feel anything. Or intense anger, like you're just angry, and I know that sometimes it's hard to just show it, but you just feel that anger bottling up on the inside. So PTSD can make it difficult to connect with joy or peace, and the emotion toll can be isolating and overwhelming. You feel that numbness, you're easily angered, things that will not upset you. People just get on your nerve easily. And there's also that feeling of shame and guilt, which can also come with it. Because remember, depending on what is the origin of the emotional trauma, all these other things can happen, especially for someone that's been abused. Is always something that's sometimes kept in secret because there's that shame, like, I can't let anybody know that that happened to me. I can't go and say it outside. And then people like suffer in silence, and that shame, that guilt, depression, and anxiety. So, and when the individual find themselves around things that are similar, whether it's similar to what has happened to them, whether it's similar, whether it's they having another experience close to it, or something that may be similar, or they watching a show on TV. These are things that could trigger them from going into this feeling again. We have somebody in the waiting room. So it's important
He's
to,
joining.
okay. So it's important to be mindful of those things, the emotional effect that the toll that these experiences can take on us. Okay. So let's look at another area. PTSD also affects how we think. Flashback. Remember that screen that I showed you earlier, that graphic? Flashback is one of the words that is there. Difficulty concentrating, and constant negative thought about oneself or the world can occur because you're constantly thinking, oh, this could happen. Constant hypervigilance, like, okay, what if this happened? What if that happened? The last time that happened, like somebody that was in a terrible car accident, for example, and then every time they get in front of the car and they have to drive, they'll be thinking, oh my God, what if I get into another accident? If somebody suddenly, like, you know, try to cut them off, then they go into like a shock because of that constant flashback that they're having. And at times, people can have difficulty concentrating, negative self beliefs, sleep disturbances, and even sometimes nightmares. Like I said earlier, all these things are in different levels. But the most important thing is, taking a moment to be aware of what you're feeling and knowing that these things are real. Any questions?
Daryl says he's trying to get in, but no one's letting him in.
No, I let him in, but his thing just keeps spinning saying joining.
Any questions before we go on to the physical effects that it actually has on your body? Okay. Is there anything in the chat, Dr. Coney?
So, Minister, Reverend Sherry, you're saying that like this causes, I heard you talking about it causes like a negative thinking because like every time you like would step outside or something so that you would always, because of past stress, of course,
Yeah.
you're always thinking negative. You always, it's like thinking the worst is going to happen about any situation at all. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Almost like the same way you're talking about, like if someone has a bad boss, if you've always had a bad boss or you had two bad boss back to back, if you change your job or you have a new boss, you're gonna be thinking like, oh, if the thing, like, for example, if your boss always say don't put a cup there, or don't, yeah, when you bring me my coffee it has to be a certain way, and if you made that mistake, this new boss may not be like that, but you're gonna have flashback as you're taking that coffee, like, oh my God, I made a mistake, because you're gonna be expecting that something negative could happen, because of that flashback and negative thought based on the emotional trauma that has happened. So yeah. Any,
Okay.
any
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question, comment about that? So we see that this thing has emotional effect. Then I think the part that even stands out is the physical effect that this trauma can have on us, right? Because the mind and the body are connected, trauma often show up physically. It doesn't just stay in your emotions and in your thought, it starts to affect you. Have you ever heard the saying that people like really think themselves or worry themselves like literally to death or to sickness? Fatigue sets in, headaches, or even chronic illnesses can result from living in constant state of stress. The body keeps the score. Whatever is going on in your mind, whatever trauma you're going to, and you're trying to bottle it in, it shows up somewhere. Even if you're able to keep the emotion in check, the way we're wired, the body is connected to the mind. It shows up in digestive problem. It shows up in you having headache. Even with me, like when there's one thing, like let's say I'm looking for something. That's just a simple stress. I'm looking for something. In the past, if I start looking, I start having stomach disorder. Like my stomach start turning. So, but I had to learn that when I'm looking for something, I'm not gonna just looking crazy. I'm gonna be still and I'm gonna just sit and pray and ask God to lead me where the things are. And that's what I've been doing for the past, I would say like 15 or 20 years. And that has really helped me. So when I'm looking for something, I don't look around anymore. I just sit and I think, retrace my step and pray about it. So that's a little some strategies that we can use for minor situation. Of course, as people of faith, we're gonna talk more about strategies to heal them. It can affect our immune system. Um, Maybe before you could fight off a cold easily, you never get a cold. When you're like so stressed and you're bottling up chronic stress, it can lead to you being more um less immune to things and you could be more exposed and more sensitive to guess you can get sicker than before. Question, comments? Okay, let's look at question, comment, anything in the chat. Okay, a little bit
No.
about, thank you, Dr. Coney. A little bit about how we affect relational and social effects. Because when people are going through a physical, emotional trauma, we know it affects their emotions first, then it affects them physically. So what happened to the people around them? Or were never people in isolation, were people that were made to be in community with people. How does what you are going through, the depression, the feeling of heaviness, and all the negative thoughts, how does it affect people around you? Think of a mother who is constantly thinking, oh, something's going to happen, something is going to happen, and can't really let their teenage child do things freely because they're constantly afraid. How do you think that's going to happen? What's going to happen to that relationship, right? Trauma doesn't just affect the person, it impacts their relationship. Many survivors isolate or have difficulty trusting others. You don't just like stay in the zone of what happened to you, you carry over the emotions from the previous negative relationship or negative situation into today, into this new relationship or into existing relationship, thinking the same thing could happen. Some people overly dependent, while others detached emotionally. Remember, I said something about people just being numb and not having no emotion. Like, I'm not gonna let anybody get to me. I'm just gonna put a wall. I'm putting a wall, a kind of defense mechanism to make sure that you don't go there another time. These reactions are not weakness, they are survival strategies. The reaction to protect yourself, to sort of put like a block around yourself, there are ways that you are trying to survive, that we try to survive, but they are not necessarily the best way, the best strategies to use. Also there's that fear of being misunderstood. It's simple and basic, but because maybe think of a child sometimes, because children can also have emotional trauma. apart from things happening in their family, if a child is when children are born, when they come like clean and pure, right? Apart, we know that they were born in sin and iniquity, but they come with like the enthusiasm of like, I want to do this, I want to do this. But then when a child, for example, does a presentation and they don't get maybe the support or the accolade that they need, they may be afraid. Or you're open to speak, to support, to do things, and then if you get shut down, then you start developing the fear of being misunderstood. Then you start second guessing yourself. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should wait. What if they misunderstand me? Oh, then I shouldn't say that. That's also some form of emotional trauma in the background that you've developed a kind of defense mechanism to make sure that doesn't happen. But we're created in such a way to protect ourselves. We always put up the guard to like, no, this is not going to happen again. I have to. Minister Natasha.
I was just going to say, even for a child, something as simple as somebody having a dog and that dog coming over to lick them, but they thought that the dog was going to bite them. And
Huh?
from that point on, they never want to be around a dog. If they see a dog, they're like telling everybody, get that dog away from me.
Yeah.
So it can be something as small as that. And from my own personal experience, one of the reasons why I asked Dr. Sherry to explore this is because when we're doing the soul care, I the Holy Spirit allowed me to realize that I had. It sounds like a very small thing, but when I was younger, I lived with a cousin, and the cousin had what we call sticky fingers, and he was always taking stuff from me, the family, but we didn't realize it. We just thought it was misplaced. But long term, of course, we realized what was going on, and he had to leave. But after that, my trauma was every time I missed something, I always looked to somebody thinking they had taken my stuff.
Hmm.
And so one day, my daughter actually called me on it. She says, every time you misplace something, you think somebody took your stuff. And then realized it was a trigger because whenever something was gone, I automatically went back to when I was a kid.
Hmm.
If something was gone, that he took it, somebody took it, rather than I misplaced it. So it can be in something really major or something really minor that you don't even consider a in a way a post-traumatic kind of thing because we usually think of it in such a major way. But there are so many small triggers that have happened throughout our life that cause us to respond and react the way we do.
Hmm. Great point. Great point. Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
What Dr. do you? Sherry, I'm sorry. This is Pauline. The same holds true for this story of the dog. I remembered as a child, I got bit by a dog, right? And I would never, ever. I told my husband, say he wants a dog. I said, I'm not getting any dog because I still live with that trauma until this day, right? If you have a dog and I have to come to your house, my antenna is 100% up, and I'm going to ask you to please put
I
the dog
forbid
away.
you.
Even if the dog is friendly, like some people say, he's a friendly dog. She's friendly. She's not going to hurt you. To you, that's your opinion of the dog. For me, all I know is I got bit and I'm not letting no dog near me again. So that's a trauma that I really, really haven't really gotten over. And I try, but I'm always on 10 where that is concerned.
I too was bitten by a dog. Really, really bad. Really
Wow.
bad. Yes, in my back, very close to that private area. But for the grace of God.
Amen.
So I had, even now, you see, you can see the mark where the dogs bit me. And this
Oh,
is some
dogs.
place that I have yes, this is a place where I've always gone to. Every single week as a child, I go there. And one week I was just, I don't know if the gentleman got these dogs, and the person that was inside, because he know me, said, "Come on in, dog's not going to bite you." And
Hmm.
by the time I start heading up to where he was. Three dogs just came and threw me on the ground.
Wow.
And I was bitten all over my back, close to, as I said, close to that area there. I still have the mark right there. So it's not that I'm really afraid of dogs. I'll be around dogs and I pretend like I'm not afraid of them and they can be friendly and I try to pat them. But honestly, I'm really afraid of dogs.
And
Uh,
like I was, oh, go ahead.
Okay, can I talk?
Yes, you can talk. Yes.
All right. I
Sound of the radio
love
in your room.
God there.
Can you turn off the TV before you start
That's
to speak?
all. Yeah, I am. I'm not I know. I had dogs. I mind dogs. I love dogs. But well, you should know that when I come by your house, you have to put away the dog, right? I just don't want them come near to me. You're laughing. I just don't want them to come near to me. And then, there's a saying that if you're afraid of dogs, they'll sense it and they will attack you,
Sure.
right? But
Mhm.
I've never been bitten by a dog. I've mind dogs for years. And another thing, I worked in a house that they had a dog, and I wasn't afraid of the dog at all. And like if you see thunder roll, the dog will run under the chair where I'm sitting, you know. But I just don't want them to come too near to me. And if you're in your house, you have to put it away. But I've never been traumatized by a dog, but I just don't want them to come near to me.
Mm.
That's it.
Thank you for sharing that. Just to address what Sister Pauline and Sister Anne Marie said, you know, the trauma is real. Trauma is trauma. If you had an experience with the dog biting you, of course your antenna will be high because you want to protect yourself. Who wants something negative that's happened to them before to happen again? So, but being aware of your feelings and owning onto your feelings, knowing that this is how I feel about dog, and protecting yourself and being a step ahead. Will you ever get to a place where you're never hypervigilance? Maybe or maybe not. But the fact is, the older you get and the more interaction you have with dogs and nothing negative happen, the more you're gonna be more relaxed because you tried, So yeah. So I get it, and I'm really sorry, Sister Anne Mary, that you had to go through that as a child. That must have been a lot for you to
Hmm.
go through. But thank you
Yes,
for
and this is some, we used to go there for eggs. I used to go to this place for eggs, like,
mm,
they used to sell the tray eggs where they have the farm. So I
mm,
used to go there and get eggs. So it was like shocking to me for these dogs to attack me. Although when I used to go there first, there was no dogs. So these
yeah.
people got these dogs and they didn't put a sign up to say, they have dogs or whatever.
Of course, that's gonna create some trust issues with with dogs. Absolutely. You see a dog, you're gonna remember. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on now. We're gonna talk a little bit about, this is very important to understand, just like we just been said, is be overly stated. PTSD is not in your head. It is not in your head. I know in some culture, at times people say, just shake it off. It's just in your head. What are you afraid of? You're gonna go there. You're afraid. I'm gonna get you there. I'm gonna put your hand in there. I'm gonna take you to those dogs you're afraid of. No, it's not all in your head. It's a
Hmm.
full body experience that affects behavior. It's a full body experience. It affects your nervous system. It affects even the way we relate to each other. Everyone that reacts or relates in a certain way, they have a story. They have a story. That is why it's important for us to approach each other with empathy and consideration and not be so quick to judge our brothers, our sister, or our co-worker because have
Hallelujah.
they have a story. They have a story. And once I realized that and the Lord showed me that picture, it has given me empathy for people and how I deal with people, whether they being positive or negative against towards me, because they have a story. We need to treat each other and the PTSD that people go through and experience with compassion, care, and not judgment. So before you react negatively to somebody because they reacted negatively to you, just think about it. Probably they have a story, and that may be able to like help us to sort of try to figure out how we react. Dr. Sunday?
Yeah, my question I want to ask, is it possible to be traumatized by something you've never experienced?
Hmm.
Yes.
Like if you hear the story from somebody else,
Huh?
Yeah, but you never experienced it.
yeah, it's possible. It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible because sometimes, like movies, let me just take it from movies, and people can tell me and share their experiences. And Dr. Sunday, of course, can share more what is the line of his thought. Like sometimes when I see movie, that's why I don't see horror movies. I don't like to see horror movie. Then I'll be having nightmares. Yeah, that's PTSD. It's coming back to me in my dreams. The movies that I've seen. Dr. Sunday, do you have any thoughts regarding that?
No thought. I just wanted to know, when we're talking about experiences and stuff, just wanted to know if it's possible to be traumatized by something you never actually experienced. And you already answered the question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, because even sometimes, like when things happen, let's say they say there's so much shooting in on, like for example, when I was gonna start to work in Brooklyn, I remember Sister Polly was one of the people that encouraged me, and I got this position in Brooklyn maybe about how many years ago now, 10 years ago, and I had to bring up a prayer point at Friday night prayer, like I'm gonna work in Brooklyn. I need you people to pray for me, because I've had bad things about Brooklyn at that time. And the area where I was going to be supervising the school was in a very high crime area. So when I will go, I didn't experience any crime, but when I will go, I'll be hypervigilance. I'll be like looking, I will not go too late. I will go like in the middle of the school day, leave there before the school kids, close from school and things like that. Yes. Sister Aliyah?
What? Well, sorry. Go ahead.
Sister Aliyah and then Sister Anne Marie. Aliyah and Sister Anne Marie in that order.
I believe I had, first of all, good night, everyone. Hi. Um, I had read somewhere in college that trauma can be generational, like it can stay in the body and be passed down generationally. So something that may have happened to your parents could also be a trigger for you, even though you've never experienced it yourself.
I've read it too. Yep, I've read it too. Anybody want to speak to that? Anybody had any experience specifically to that?
I would say like being the child of a depression era mother, and she would just buy a lot of stuff, like detergent, tuna fish, like really kind of hoard that stuff.
Mm,
And I think that was from a traumatic upbringing where there were times when they didn't have food, they didn't have resources and things like that. So even though she moved on from that, she still continued that habit of like, just accumulating stuff. And so that's when I realized that, hey, I can't continue
mm,
this trend of, accumulating like rice and detergent and just like all of this stuff. Um, you have to sort of break that habit. But at the meantime, I had to recognize where it was coming from because, like, I was taught that, right? Because she grew up in that era and so carried those habits on and then, taught us those same almost like hoarding activities.
Mm.
So I don't know if that correlates or not.
Yeah, great points. Great point. Thank you, Dr. Crony. It's not just in the mind, it's a real thing. I know Sister Anne Marie has a point. I'm just going to read this. Generational trauma, also known as intergenerational trauma or transgenerational trauma, refers to lasting psychological effect of traumatic event experienced by one generation that can impact future generations even if they did not directly experience the trauma. This effect can manifest in various ways, including anxiety, depression, difficulty with relationship, can be passed down through learned behavior, like I said, through learned behavior, family dynamic, and possibly even genetic changes. Interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, Aaliyah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh, sorry,
You
Sister
didn't let me
Marie.
speak,
Who was talking? I'm sorry.
Anne Marie.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was saying, you probably can get emotional stressed from things that you never thought would have happened to you,
Ah,
and it come like a surprise to you,
okay.
and it's just hard. How
Yes.
do you deal with that?
Yeah. We're gonna talk about how to deal with it at in after this slide. The next slide we're gonna talk about ways to deal with it. We are gonna learn from each other. Before healing can begin, this is like the beginning of the healing. Before healing can begin, the pain has to be acknowledged. It's almost similar to what we did in soul care, that you cannot get healed from something you don't expose. Before healing, you have to acknowledge. Remember, over and over again, I kept on saying you have to acknowledge your feeling. You have to say it. I feel like this. This makes me feel this way. The pain has to be
Mhm.
acknowledged. Emotional trauma is valid, even if no one else saw it, even if it seemed like no one else believed you. Your feeling, your emotion, your experience is valid. Feeling broken doesn't mean you are broken. Feeling broken doesn't mean you're broken. And feeling emotional from emotional trauma and having the flashback, which is PTSD, doesn't mean you're too sensitive. Your reaction is a normal response to an abnormal experience. It doesn't mean because you're weak, that's why you reacted that way, or that's why it happened to you. Remember, emotional trauma is real. Your pain is real. It's as real as somebody slapping the hand. It's real. Your reaction is a normal response to an abnormal experience. Feeling broken doesn't mean you are broken. You are not broken. It means you're human and your pain is real. Yes. I'm going to go to the next slide. Oh, it took me backward. Why is it taking me backward to go forward? Okay. These are some of the symptoms of the PTSD: experiencing the trauma, flashback, nightmares, repetitive images, physical sensation like sweating, pain, and trembling, situational avoidance, avoiding the thought, the feeling, the places, and the people or the things like dog, the animals that trigger reminder of traumatic event, arousal and reactivity, irritability, angry or aggressive outbursts, feeling tense or on guard, difficulty sleeping or staying asleep, cognitive and mood, difficulty concentrating, having trouble remembering key element of the traumatic event. You may even block part of the event and don't remember it in details, because that's also another way that we protect ourselves. Feeling anger, guilt, or shame. Why is it going back? Oh no. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see what's happening.
Why is this thing jumping all over the place like
Yeah,
this?
it's jumping all over the place. Okay, this is where I want to go. Okay.
It's jumping, right?
Yeah, it was jumping. Yes, I don't know why. Okay, now
So
I'm where we're supposed to be. Can you still see it?
no, I can hear you, but
Yes.
I can just hear.
Yes,
I
I can
I
see
can
it.
see it. I can see it.
Okay. So healing is possible. Healing is possible. The good news is healing is possible with therapy, with community, with spiritual support.
Okay.
People do recover. You have to believe that you can recover,
Okay.
especially if what is happening is affecting your day-to-day activities, spiritual practices like prayer, community, and forgiveness. Forgiving the offender, if it's something that has to do with an offense, forgiving the offender. I know we spoke widely a lot in Foundation Church about forgiveness. Very important. Healing takes time, but it's never out of reach. It takes time, but it's never out of reach. God can restore what trauma tried to destroy. Again, God can restore what trauma tried to destroy. You have to give yourself time, give yourself grace, and continue the path to restoration. So just continue to find someone you can confide in, someone that can pray with you. You may need, if it's very severe, you may need a professional help. Talk to a counselor. Find a supportive relationship, people that can pour into you. Hear the word of God, allow the word of God, if you're a Christian, to speak to you the word of affirmation. If you're not a Christian, you know affirm yourself with something positive and believe in that. My final thought, as I said earlier, you are not broken, you're healing. Healing is a journey. It's okay to take it one step at a time. It's okay to take it one step at a time. I believe in you all, whatever you're going through, or if you know someone that's going through, one step at a time, whatever that journey is. Thank you. Comments, questions?
Great presentation.
The audience made the presentation. Great audience. Thank you so much, Sister Novella.
Thank you. I really appreciated this.
You're welcome.
I this was great.
Thank you.
Although the here didn't thing on, but I'm listening to everything. The only thing I missed was from the beginning when we were talking about things. I forget what it was, but the only time I had a little um became a little stressed is after my grandson died. For a while, it took me a while to get myself back together. So that's about it. But everything else, I looked and I agree, and it's a very good presentation.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, everyone. Thank you,
I
everyone.
have a Reverend Dr. Sherry, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Does it these past experiences, right? Does it influence your thought process? Like now, they have this new terminology, um, intrusive thoughts, right? Does these past, if you grew up, like, for example, you grew up right, all you had heard was just negative, 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 negative. And so you've lived that life all along and you're trying to get out of it. But like sometimes you just constantly, you're walking and you just stub your toe, and all of a sudden you create an entire story of what could have happened for that one moment you stub your toe. Not that stubbing your toe is unusual, not that you're so unique that you stub your toe, because people do this all the time, right? but it's like a whole story. You create an entire story in your head from that mishap at that. And it's not even a mishap, it's just a misstep, period.
Mm-hmm.
So could that be also from because of all these long standing things that you grew up with? So now as an adult, everything seems to you like it's taking a negative spin and you have to work so hard in dismissing it?
Absolutely.
If that makes sense, what I just asked.
It makes perfect sense. We have to constantly replace any idea that doesn't align with things that will make us live a healthy emotional life, an healthy Christian life, and replace it with the truth. Because sometimes we have believed in a lie for so long, and that lie has become like the truth to us. So we have to now start replacing it. Once we know, now we are in the know. The lie has been exposed. Now is now to replace it with some truth. Like, okay, because I eat my food, no, that's not gonna change my day. My day is still gonna be great because the word of God says my day is ordered by Him. The steps of the righteous are ordered by God. So the more you replace it, the more you're gonna start thinking like that. I wonder you're gonna eat your food against the stone. It won't even bother you anymore. You won't think like that anymore. Is replacement therapy. There's actually something they call cognitive therapy. It's sort of like a replacement, trying to replace your thought pattern with another kind of thought pattern. Dr. Sunday?
Yeah, thank.
What
Hold
when
it.
you try,
Dr. Sunday's hand is up after Dr. Sunday.
So, thank you for this topic. It's a very, very important topic, and the question I ask about, even without experiencing PTSD, that can you still have it? And I was given the right answer. But the other, that means the that diagnosis is underdiagnosed, because from what I have experienced, I actually work in the hospital and I've seen that since COVID, the hospital changed. And since COVID, the whole country as a whole changed. And if we went through that kind of traumatic experience, do you think that some of these interventions you're saying should be all over to help people?
Hmm.
Because that to me seems like it's a traumatic experience that the entire world went through. And how come we're not putting a lot of these interventions in place to help people in the community, in our churches, and in other places, to really help us to get over this traumatic experience that the whole nation, the whole country, the whole world just went through? That is to say that some of these things is underdiagnosed in some of the people that is moving around in our community.
Hmm. Good talk, Dr. Sunday. That means we're going to have another event. Well, we heard you. Dr. Coney, you heard Dr. Sunday?
Yes, I did.
To be
so
continued.
so what happened to people who are going through trauma, not based on the fact of, say, COVID? After COVID, they experience deep trauma and they probably feel like there's they feel afraid or they feel like they don't want to stretch out their arms, or even sometimes if they do stretch out their arms, it is being, you feel like your arm is being bitten off. How you deal with that sort of situation?
I think it's the same process of acknowledging the feeling, them coming to a point. 'Cause you can't force people to see what they don't want to see. You can't tell the person. It all depends on the relationship with you, that person. Someone that you're not close to, you can't tell them you are being hyper vigilant, you have PTSD, you have this, you have that. You can't go about diagnosing people.
Diagnosing.
Yeah, but the individual we have to see and acknowledge the feeling. I'm like, oh, I'm getting really hyper vigilant. You know, there's something that I had to acknowledge as a young oh no, as a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was very skinny. And in my young teenage years, I would just walk around the street. I'm nothing because I didn't have any negative experience. Until one day, a group of boys and adults, they were standing on the road, and as I was passing by, they were making fun of my skinny chopstick leg. They were making fun of me. And from that day, anytime I walk around throughout until I maybe finish my third year in university, that's when I was totally free from that. So anytime I see people gather around, especially with a lot of boys and men, instead of walking in front of them, I will go to the other street, turn around so I could avoid passing in front of them. It may not be the same group, but that was just how I sort of put a guard to protect myself for years. And one day I was like, why am I doing this? I had to force myself and say, you know what? I had to speak to myself to bring myself to a place where I was bold enough, even though there was still a little fear, to make that step, to walk in front of group of people gathered. And today I can walk and fly in front of, but yeah, that was me for years, so it's real, but the person have to acknowledge that this is what I'm feeling. How do I walk through this? I acknowledge it, and I'm gonna try to resolve it by being positive. And if it doesn't work with that, seek professional help. Pray and all those resources that we shared earlier.
Can I also add to that?
Absolutely. Thank you, my love.
In my own experience, it's really helpful to find a community of people as well. So say there may be a situation like Dr. Sherry said, first you have to recognize there is a problem because you can't solve anything if you don't know there's a problem. But after you realize that this is how I'm feeling and this is what's going on and this is my reaction when I see it, find a group of people that can relate to you because then you guys can you guys can relate to each other so you feel like you're not alone. So it's not as hard, it's not as difficult to carry it by yourself. And then you can also encourage each other to walk out of the situation that you're in, or hey, I noticed that when this happened, you do this. Did you know that this is your reaction when you're in this situation? They can hold you accountable for different situations. They can like hype you up during situations where you're like, hey, I'm really scared and I don't know what I should do. They can be like, well, I'm right here with you. Look at me if you're up there and it's not going to be a problem. And that really helps you to walk into the spaces that you may get triggered in, recognize the trigger, and then work out different strategies to deal with it as well.
Excellent. Excellent addition. Excellent. Thank you, Sister Aliyah. Okay, this is actually the first time in a long time that we use up all of our time.
Yes, good.
8 o'clock. This is great. Sister Madu, I didn't
Very.
hear anything from you.
I'm good. I'm
We're,
listening.
we're taking. Okay, so I'm gonna just share
I'm
two
listening.
announcement before we end. Every time we meet, we always want to share with you about COVID. We want to encourage you, not just COVID, flu and RSV. Stay current with your vaccination. Visit your doctor regularly. Do your yearly checkup. Excuse me, and make sure you stay up to date with your vaccination. And would like to share this with you. Actually, I'm gonna read something. This is most of you may not, or some of you may not know about this program. This is a program that
Connection.
Lulu Foundation is doing in conjunction. It's called the MAC program. It is a bold community-driven initiative that is launched by Relone Foundation, created in response to the urgent need for the migrant youth across New York City. These young people may be navigating displacement, language barriers, trauma, and deserve a responsive system that sees their potential and support them. So in collaboration with the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, the MAC program is uniquely positioned to support migrants between the ages of 15 and 24 to help them with their education, wellness initiatives, social integration, and stability. There's so many things we're helping them with. It's unbelievable, amazing. Mentorship, youth leaders support, um, helping them to get their ID card, even connecting them with pro bono lawyers, you know. So if you know anyone that fits into that category and need any kind of help, just send them our way. Aliyah is a program coordinator for the project. They can reach out to any one of us in the Reloom team. They can email us at info@reloom.org or our phone number at 646-715-2009. Mentorship, academic support, career development, job readiness, community workshop, and so many, many more. Health and financial literacy. So, our next webinar is going to be Monday.
Can you repeat the phone? Can you repeat the phone number?
Oh, okay. You can always call my phone number. For all of you have my
You think
always
them
call me.
the
646
What's your
646.
you think they put those plants inside at night?
Are you talking to us, Sister Pauline? 646-715-2009.
The store?
Wait a minute, 20?
Can you meet Pauline? 202009 646-715-2009.
Mm-hmm.
Already. So our next webinar is Monday, April 28th, 2025. If you guys have a topic you're passionate about, feel free to reach out to myself, Dr. Crony, or Aliyah, or Dr. Sunday, and we will make it happen. Thank you so much for making this discussion really come to life.
And what's your number?
Yeah. Thank you,
What's your
everyone.
number again,
Minister
sister?
Sherry. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Dr. Crony, you want to
Good
say
night.
thank you to everyone?
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Have a blessed
Hold on,
night.
before you run,
Thank
Sister
you.
Ingrid,
Good
Dr. Crony
night.
want to
Yes,
give
I
us a
just want
reminder.
to
Yeah.
reiterate that if you have any questions, any health related questions, especially since we're in this regime and there's a lot of misinformation going out. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we can get you the truth behind whatever misinformation is being circulated in the community. Like right now, I know there's a lot of miscommunication, misinformation surrounding Lyme disease. So, we can assist you with any questions that you may have regarding that. Also, just be careful, very careful with migrant situations and immigrant situations.
Yes.
A notification just came out that a green card holder was arrested at a supposedly a citizenship appointment. So, just be cautious and spread the word. But we can help you out in those situations as well with the MAC program. So that's all I would say. And COVID is still around.
Oh, yeah.
If you're 65 and older, please consider getting a second vaccination, a second shot to prevent you from getting disease. And remember, there's also long COVID. Issues like
Yes.
memory loss and just all sorts of issues that are out there that are related to long COVID. Um, but we can help you with information on that as well. That's it.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Thank
night,
everyone.
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Good
you.
Josie.
night.
To our
Thank
Have
guest,
a
our
you.
blessed
first time visitor. Thank you, Sister
Thank you.
Mel.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Jennifer.
Thank you.
Other part, I
night.
think you'll be here
Thank
before.
Okay.
you, Minister
You're
Sherry.
Have a
welcome.
blessed night,
Thank you, Dr.
everybody.
Crony,
Harold says thank you
everyone.
too. He got kicked
Have a
off
Thank
great
you.
night.
listening with me, but he says sends his thanks as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Thank
you. Have
you.
a good night.
Good
Have
Good
a
night,
night.
Too.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday,
Have a
Yvonne.
great
blessed
Bye.
Thank
vacation, all
everyone.
you
Everyone,
teachers.
Thank you.
spring.
Thank you.
1 week of
Enjoy.
no
All
stress.
Enjoy your week off.
Enjoy your week of no stress.
I know, right?
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Not allowed to
Goodbye.
go into church
Good
together.
night.
Good night. That
Good
was
night.
so. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.